Hello again, everybody. Welcome to the Backbone Podcast, where common sense still makes sense in a world that is sick and only getting sicker. And if you see here, it feels like I'm doing something on Cuck Week. I got to find like at least two more for the week, because yesterday we had that mental midget who was just sobbing and crying and just being such a ballless bitch on his channel. And he's supposed to be, this funny tough guy. Oh, first time watching him, totally disappointed. His father, I hope his father is dead so he doesn't have to see that. That was Sam Hyde. And today we're going to have the king of cuckery, and his name is Glenn Beck. And Glenn Beck yesterday went on a rant about how we can't have a great reset, and how civil war is bad for you, and we just can't. We have to pray, and we need discussion, and we have to talk to each other. We have to figure out each other. And I watched a little bit of it. It's very hard for me to get past Glenn Beck because he's such a straw man. That's what he is. This is a guy who, if you don't remember, if you're too young to remember, back in the 1990s, he was what they would call a zookeeper. And that's zookeepers were, they used to have these things called morning zoos on the radio. And Glenn Beck, these zookeepers would be like these idiots who, would say stupid things and play records and try to be funny. And they never were funny, but that's what Glenn Beck was. And then he lost everything because Glenn Beck was a drug addict and alcoholic. And many people say, allegedly, he played for the pink team for a little bit, but that's another story. That, of course, all went away when he found, not Jesus, oh no, he found Joseph Smith. See, old Glenn here is a Mormon. So anything he says, you got to take with a grain of salt, because he is as big as a charlatan as it gets. Now, we're going to listen to a little bit of old Glenn here. Hopefully they don't ban this or strike it down or whatever, because I heard the Blaze is kind of bitchy like that. But this is for educational purposes only, and let's go to old Glenn.
Throwing around things like national divorce. People are saying, let it all burn. We need a great reset. As if we're talking about a new season of television. But we are not. Let me be very, very clear of what we are talking about. That must never be considered. I want to hit this early before this becomes a trend, because the algorithms will reward talk like this. National divorce, civil war, et cetera, et cetera. We are not talking about a season of television that you watch from your home when you're talking about things like this. We are talking about your life, your ordinary, miraculous, taken for granted life.
This is a very common method done by people who are straw men, people who are con men, people who are in advertising, because most con men are in advertising. What they do is they make it personal. Your life is important, but you just don't know that. You don't realize how important your life is. But Glenn is going to tell you, because he's smarter than you and better than you. He's going to tell you how important your life is, because Joseph Smith told him that. He learned that in the Church of Latter-day Saints. With all those guys who have 6 or 7 15-year-old wives. Glenn is also going to tell you that there's no way out of this. It's just what we have to accept, because it's good for Glenn. Right? He doesn't want you to change. He doesn't want the country to evolve into something better. He is on the side of Satan. Satan is winning right now. So, of course, they want things to say the same. But anyway, I like his microphone.
Ending. Everything you grew up knowing, believing in, having the opportunity to have, be, do, over. It won't change. It ends. That's what civil war means. The world your children expect to grow up in. The one with school plays and little league and birthday parties in the backyard. Gone. And it doesn't come back with an election or a...
Once again, bringing in personal, making it personal, trying to scare you, bringing up your children, saying that nothing will ever be the same. But, you know, when people say that nothing will ever be the same, it could mean it could get better, right? I mean, this country did have a civil war. It had a revolutionary war 80 years before that. Did things get better? I think it did. I think it did. But Glenn isn't going to tell you that because he doesn't want things to change now. If things get better, he's out of work because he can't sit there and cry and scare you. And of course, his benefactors, and he'll mention them later, will also be very, very afraid of an uprising.
Speech or a victory parade. It doesn't come back at all. This is very fragile. This has never been done. A government of, for, and by the people has never been done before.
The Republic of Rome would like to have a say here. Res Publica, Glenn, have you ever taken a history fucking class? Is this guy mentally retarded? I mean, do the people who listen to him, are they retarded? They must be. I always want to think that these things are an act. You know, he doesn't really believe what he's saying. He's just saying, listen, my audience is a bunch of rubes in fucking, you know, Texas or whatever. And they're all boomers. And they all believe this America shit. That what we have is the only time it's ever happened. Like, there's never been democracy in another country before. I mean, Athens never had democracy, right? There's never been a republic before, even though the Romans created it almost 3,000 years ago. Glenn wants you to think that everything started here. Anglo-America, the English and the Americans, they created everything. Glenn is wrong. Glenn is a con man. He's a straw man. And he's doing his best to try to convince, and his audience is very old. So he won't be, thankfully, speaking to a lot of younger people. I mean, you know, there are probably some young people who watch him, but they won't listen to a guy like Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck is a boomer. He's just like Bill O'Reilly or Mark Levin or some of these other douchebags that, you know, they believe that America, 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 America. Those days are over. People are so disenchanted by the way things are going, and they're disenchanted by people like this. It's got to come. The only way you can make things better is by changing how things are going. And these guys don't want change. They're telling you.
And I don't know if you've noticed this, but the entire world system seems to be against people that want to rule themselves. So it doesn't come back. Civil war is not, you know, Gettysburg reenactors with quotes on social media. It's neighbors. It's cul-de-sacs. It's the grocery store and the gas station and the pharmacy. It's the lights you never think about until they don't turn on. The water you never worry about until it comes out brown, if it comes out at all. I need you, before things get crazier than they are, I want you to be firm on what you believe. I want you to picture, not for shock, but for absolute clarity. Your day begins and your bank app says service unavailable. Your ATM says out of cash. The trucks have stopped coming to the grocery stores because the highways have checkpoints and ambushes and rumors of both. The gas station is a rumor too. One station has a line that's 3 blocks long. The other has a hand-lettered sign that says cash only, limit 5 gallons. And you think, well, I got some cash, until you realize everybody else had that same idea yesterday. You must have a prescription for somebody in your family. Insulin, heart meds, chemo, whatever it is. The pharmacy's closed. Why? Because the pharmacist couldn't make it through the roadblocks. and the chain's distribution centers can't risk sending a truck without.
Tier 3 of manipulation, make it endangering others. So, of course, it's economic. That's what Glenn thinks about. So he says, hey, if we change things, you may not be able to get gas in your car. The economy might collapse. We don't want that, right? We don't want the stock market to collapse, because then my shares go down, and then I'm not worth anything. With hard cash, I'm worth everything in the stock market. I'm going to lose all my money. We can't have that. You think Glenn really gives a shit if you can't get your prescription glasses out of a pharmacy? First of all, let me tell you this. If something like this were to happen, places would be ransacked. You wouldn't need a pharmacist. That's what they would break in and steal everything. Look what's happening in these big cities today. And he's making this out to be a Mad Max scenario. It wouldn't be that bad. It wouldn't be that bad. It would be bloody in the beginning, but it wouldn't be as bad as he's trying to make it seem. He's trying to scare you, because anybody and everybody who thinks outside of the box, who doesn't conform to the boomer America way, is scary to these people. They're trying to grasp for the last bit of control they can, because they see it going away. They see it going away with the younger generations, who just wave them off and say, hey, Gramps, go on the porch, and your Depends is on too tight. That's what they're terrified of. They're terrified of losing control, so they scare you with manipulation tactics like this to try and back you off. My God, there's still 7 minutes of this.
Out of police escort. And the police don't escort trucks anymore, because the police that do show up for work now are triaging their own neighborhoods. You call 911 about a domestic disturbance down the street, and the dispatcher says, if anybody even answers, we'll put you on the list. These aren't front lines in a modern civil war. They are the intersections. They are our neighborhoods. They are the algorithms. The algorithm that sells rage by the pound. And it's being fed to both sides until both sides are blind with rage. When the person running, Spanberger, running for Virginia, for the governor, says, let your rage fuel you, no. Rage will make you blind. And we won't be fighting in uniform. You'll be avoiding a rumor. The rules of the road become rules of the rifle. Whoever controls the intersection controls that day. Hospitals are now fortresses, then targets, then shells. Food becomes scarce, then it's currency. Your children's school becomes a shelter. Do they even have school anymore? No. Your children now have memories of school and a new job of staying quiet when they hear a drone or a truck backfire. Childhood shrinks down to the safest room in your house. Now you think you're going to pick a side. You think you know what side you'll be on. You think your side will protect you. But here's the truth. Sides protect themselves. And both sides will ask you to prove your loyalty with things you promised yourself you would never, ever do. Good people just like you will do them.
So if you're on the right side, the side that God is on, that we would worship Jesus with, you don't have to prove yourself to anybody. They know. See, he's talking about the left. He believes that the sides would behave exactly how the left behave. You have to prove yourself. You have to cut your dick off. You have to be, you have to cuck for Israel. You have to have your hair blue. The side that wins, once they wake up, won't ask you to do that. This is a guy who's supposed to love Jesus. He talks about it all the time. And he knows nothing about how Jesus was. This is a pussy pacifist. And I'll ask you the question, and you can think about it until the end of the video. Was Jesus a pacifist? You think Jesus today would say, the world's fine, let's just talk about it, we'll fix everything with talk? Homie was a little bit more aggressive than that.
Because fear is a sculptor and it carves away at conscience first. You think you know how the market works until the market dies.
I got to give Glenn a little credit. He waited 5 minutes and 21 seconds before he mentioned Wall Street. So I got to give him a little credit for that. But if the market dies, I think it's 78, 79% of the American public aren't invested or have any sort of Wall Street investments. They wouldn't be affected if the market crashed. I mean, the money wouldn't be worth anything anymore. But that might be a good thing. You start over. I mean, people are barely making it today. And money is not worth what it was 2 years ago. And Glenn shouldn't care because what is he worth? 400 million? He doesn't give a shit. He cares about his stock options, of course. But he doesn't care if you don't have any money in your pocket. But I'm proud of you, Glenn. You straw man, you waited 5 minutes and 21 seconds before bringing up the stock market. This is all about economy because that's what they're worried about.
It's die when trust dies. Pensions evaporate, not because of a bad quarter, but because the bond market can't price what's coming tomorrow. Yeah. The currency on your counter is now canned food, bottled water, diesel, antibiotics, your home value. What's a house worth?
There it is. He's worried about the economy. He's talking about, canned food and water. If you ever read Plato's Republic, that's what he basically said the perfect economy would be. Your talents in exchange for somebody else's talents. So you teach his children how to read and write, he builds you a house. You fish, you sell your fish to the farmer who has vegetables. It's a clear exchange. But Glenn doesn't like that because Glenn is a corporatist, not a capitalist, a corporatist. Let's keep going. Hopefully this is good.
If there's nobody to insure it, nobody to mortgage it, nobody to drive to it without risking their life. And then there are the guests who arrive when a great house is on fire. The cartels, the opportunists, the foreign intelligence services, the war tourists with passports and GoPros. They don't choose sides. They just choose opportunities and openings.
So this is, of course, he's talking about China and probably some elements of the Europeans, but he's worried because his best friends, the Israelis, would lose control. See, if America goes into a civil dispute and we're fighting amongst each other, guess who suffers the most? Guess who suffers the most? That little strip of desert right off the Mediterranean. That's who he's more worried about. That's why he brings up the market, insurance, and then the foreign interests, because he knows the foreign interests are in Israel. They already took us over. He's not worried about that, is he? He's worried about his homeboys with little hats, and he's worried about foreign interests like China and maybe even Russia influencing and maybe even arming rebels in this country. But again, it's not going to happen because we love football too much. We're too lazy.
And they open the opportunities you didn't even know you had. Your grid, your water plants, your data center, your port. And they don't fly flags. They fly yours. And then let you blame one another to fuel the fire. Let your rage. No, don't. Listen to me. There is no clean ending to this. There's no clean Gettysburg, especially in a world of encrypted chats and weaponized rumors. There is just bone-grinding pain.
Oh.
There is the settling of old scores under new slogans. There's the permanent loss of innocence. The moment you stop seeing your neighbor as a neighbor that you can never quite unsee the enemy that you have imagined. I can't ever think of that person any way other than that. Then you are headed for that outcome.
For what outcome, Glenn?
And if you imagine...
What's the outcome that we're headed to? What's the outcome? that we're no longer okay with the status quo, that we no longer want to be ruled by boomers and Israelis? Is that what is that so bad? Is that what you're talking about? He has exposed himself as such a charlatan, and anybody who watches him, and if you watch him, that's on you. But anybody who believes what he says, just look at his religion. He believes that a man in upstate New York talked to an angel named Moroni with golden plates, and they have this magic underwear. So if they get horny, the underwear stops them from getting hard-ons, but it won't stop them from dating or marrying multiple 15-year-old girls. Of course not.
Glory. War doesn't wound bodies, it wounds time. 10 years from now, the men and women who survive will still hear the sound of a truck at night and think checkpoint. Your children will flinch at fireworks. Weddings will be smaller. Funerals will be more frequent. And hope, real hope, will be spoken in a whisper because it's learned to hide. It is reasonable to ask, what do we have in common anymore?
Nothing.
But the next reasonable question is, how can we find common ground? How can we
this guy, he makes his living off of reporting the news and stories and all this other stuff. Where has he been the last 30 years? What has he watched? What has he reported on? Has there been common ground? Has there been any sort of meeting of the minds to say, you know what, let's try it this way. Let's work together. No, it hasn't happened in 30 fucking years. And again, this guy keeps talking about the same bullshit all the time, and it's getting sickening and tired.
understand each other? Before you retweet bravado, count the cost of where we could be headed. And not in abstract numbers, but in faces. The old man in your street who needs oxygen, the single mom who works at night,
Again,
the kid who just made the team, the clerk at the corner store who always remembers your brand, your face, your needs. These are the casualties that never make the headlines because they disappear one inconvenience at a time. These are the times.
Did you see the dramatic pause? It was the same thing Charlie Kirk's wife did during that WWE fucking memorial. It's commonplace. These people are taught by marketing and television production people. I was a television production person, so I know. There's always that pause after the big rant to let it sink in and to show that he's exhausted from giving you from giving you all of his greatness and his knowledge. Crazy.
Names the try men's souls. That used to be a phrase I didn't understand, and it belonged in the past. I say it to you today. These are the times that try men's souls. Those who stand today and shoulder the burden.
Mm-hmm.
Those who stand today and do the hard work, God's work of love and peacemaking.
It won't be Glenn, though, will it? It won't be his children. It'll be yours and mine. Fighting wars for his friends in Israel. Those are the ones that have to do the hard work.
And uniting and speaking the truth. They will be owed a thanks for generations to come. Turn down the algorithm and turn up the conversation.
Uh-huh.
Teach your children the difference between courage and recklessness, between justice and vengeance. Make your county and your town resilient, so relationally thick that an outside arsonist, foreign or domestic, will only find damp tinder there.
You know where you got that from? The Russians, during their civil war, of course, they came out pretty good. They would burn down their towns, so there'd be nothing left for the rebels or armies that were coming into those towns. So that's where that line came from. Glenn is Glenn's all over the place with that white hair of his.
You must get serious about peace, not the sentimental kind, the muscular kind. Form covenants with churches and synagogues and communities.
There it is. I knew it was coming. I was kind of thinking he wasn't going to go there, but he did. He mentioned that S word because you can never forget about those people with the funny hats.
Groups and clubs and councils, and say it out loud. No violence in our name. It's not acceptable. Not here. Not here.
All right. So there you have it. You know, Glenn, of course, is not a historian. He nitpicks, he cherry picks, and of course, everything is through the Anglo-American history books. He probably believes Edward Gibbon's fall of the Roman Empire as if it really happened. But you know, the Romans during the third crisis, the third century crisis, had 26 civil wars in a 50-year span. And what became of those civil wars? Well, they had their golden age right afterwards. The Romans had 4 golden ages, right? America has never had one, right? England had a golden age from what, 1700 to about 1850, and then their empire started to fall. You know, Spain and Portuguese golden age was late 15th century, early 16th century. The Romans had 4, and they all happened after civil wars. And yes, there's going to be bloodshed. Yes, it's going to be hard in the beginning. Yes, it's going to take rebuilding. But only the greats rise to the top. During the bubonic plague, which wiped out 1/3 of Europe, what did we have that happened right afterwards? That was God's civil war on us. But what did we have right after? We had the greatest period in probably all of human history, and it was called the Renaissance. The zenith of art, the zenith of literature, the zenith of music, the zenith of architecture, the zenith of education in all aspects, mathematics, astronomy. And it all happened with bad stuff happening first. You know, it's always darkest before the dawn. And people like Glenn Beck, who preach about churches and synagogues and all this other shit, they tend to forget that the guy that they always quote, the guy that they always use, old JC33 himself, homeboy was a fucking troublemaker. Now, Jesus, his teachings indicate an aversion to violence. But he wasn't a pacifist. I mean, within the Gospels, and I'm not going to Bible thump here, there exist certain passages which portray him as an instigator of division. Wow, are you fucking serious? He wanted to divide people? He was a disruptor of unity. Get the fuck out of here. Jesus himself, that nice man hanging on a cross? Let me quote Luke 12, verse 50. Do you think I came to bring peace to the earth? Truly, I tell you no, but rather division. You can't get change if it's the status quo bullshit like Glenn Beck wants all the time. It will never happen. If you don't create, if you don't have a purpose, if you don't develop, you can't evolve. It's just that simple. When Jesus saw the money exchangers in the temple during a holy site, he makes a whip and violently chases out the bankers and overturns the tables, and they were prostitutes there as well. He chased them all out. Jesus was not a pacifist. He was a troublemaker, an instigator of conflict, and a disruptor of unity. And the Pharisees recognized that, saw that, preached against it, and had him taken out. Glenn Beck is the Pharisees. He's part of that old guard who doesn't want shit to change. He doesn't want the old law replaced with the new law, the new covenant, because it hurts his bottom line. But that's for you to decide, of course. Because Jesus, homeboy was, you talk about alpha. He wasn't an alpha like these simps like Andrew Tate and all these other assholes. Homeboy was on fire. He came with the axe. He came with the axe, and he changed the world. And that's my 2 cents. Thanks again for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. And be careful, my friends. Satan is always busy, and he came to you with white hair and a cheap little goatee. Be a man, unlike Glenn Beck. Have a backbone, because masculinity and common sense are worth standing up for. And just remember, if it ends in an ism, it's a mental disorder. We'll see you later.